Hi, hello! It is new heroic race time in Dragon City. Yes, already. I know that the High Occult Titan race only just finished, but we have another race, this time for the new High Siren Dragon, and we have a new collection that has started as well. And this first shield is going to be the start of this, and these shields can be very, very nice to us, depending on what we get. But this is the heroic race for High Siren, and High Siren is a beauty primary element, which is interesting, with sea, time, and chaos elements. It's kind of an interesting set of elements, and honestly, I think that you'll probably see some people running this dragon, despite how the dragon actually looks. But this is, of course, a regular old heroic race. It's not like the heroic race we just had for High Occult Titan. This one, you only need to get to lap 5 to qualify, and it seems like the lap rewards are pretty much what we would expect for a regular heroic race. So the only exception to this being the fact that we have Haunted at lap 16. And I don't know if you know me, but I adore Haunted so much. So if we manage to get to lap 16, we will get our hands on a free legendary, which, you know what, instead of getting a mythical egg chest, I don't know how I feel, but just because it's Haunted, I am 100% in support of this. But of course, we have a leaderboard and we will be competing against other players, and today I will go through everything that you need to know to do the quests in this event. But you either need to come first in this race or you need to get to lap 15 to guarantee the new heroic dragon. It's the same as it usually is. So our goal would be minimum lap 15, this time minimum lap 16. But we need to finish off these quests, these lap 3 node 1 tasks, for example, in order to progress in this heroic race. And at the same time, very quickly before we go through how to do every single one of these tasks, even if you're a brand new player, I did also want to mention that there is currently a breeding event island with Haunted and the new Curtis dragons in them as well. There are also quests for these dragons, which we will go through later, but you can also try and breed for Haunted. But while the heroic race is ongoing, you're not going to have tons of opportunities to breed dragons, so please bear that in mind. And if you can get to lap 16, you might want to be breeding for Curtis, or if you just want to empower for Haunted, you could try and breed Haunted. It's your choice. But anyway, back to the heroic race itself. So I'll go through each of these tasks as I usually do in the best ways to do them, but I will say that before we even start doing the tasks, you should always have a guide open that shows you what the tasks are going to be on each lap and what the wait timers are for each. And so, for instance, since we are on lap 3, I'm going to open up the ditlep.com heroic race site because Ditlep isn't working currently. And so if we scroll down and select lap 3, because we can select any lap, and if we select lap 3, you'll see that we've got collect gold and collect food. I'm going to keep saying collect now, but there is no wait time on either of these, which means that we don't have to wait for any set amount of time to be able to finish this. So all that we need to do is just collect our gold from our habitats that have gold above them, as you can see there. And then once you see the little gem, that means that you've received an item for collecting. So since we're only at 8 out of 11, that means that we'll need to get a few more, so we'll collect a bit more from the habitats that have the gold symbol. And the reason why you should only collect from habitats that have the gold symbol is because the fuller the habitat is, the more likely you are to get the item. And so it is much better than just sitting there and just clicking collect over and over again like this. Your chances of getting the item are really low if you do that, so make sure you are collecting from the fullest habitats that you can. And if you want to know the best way to do that, if you're a brand new player, best way to do that is to place tons of level 1 Terra habitats. The reason I say Terra habitats is because they are really quick to build, and plus you can just put Terra dragons in them. So you just go ahead, you go and purchase them, you pop the Terra habitat down, you fill them up with dragons, and then you can collect the gold from them. That is the easiest way to do the collecting gold quest. It is one of the easiest quests in this event. The other one that we've got right now is getting items by collecting food. And as you can see, collecting food actually usually takes much longer than the collecting gold. Reason being that if you're using the shortest food timer, the chances of you getting an item are usually they're about 10%. But I have to say, this time around so far, even though I'm only on lap 3, I am noticing a significant lack of item drops happening from these farms. I think I'm just getting unlucky. I hope so, because if they've actually decreased the drop rates on these, that would suck, but I'm going to assume it's the same 10%. But just think about it, 10% drop chance means every 1 in 10 roughly you would expect to get an item, but that's not guaranteed. So you could collect 20 times and not get an item, or you could collect from 10 farms and get 10 items. But you're just going to have to keep doing it over and over again. So best thing to do for this is to pop in the shortest food timer, which is bluebell bouquets, and just use these for the whole event. If you do this, then that guarantees that you will not get stuck on the food collecting task at any point during this heroic race. So it's a lot more reliable than trying to time your food timers with like longer food. You can if you're really comfortable and say put long food timers in half the farms, put short food timers in the other half. But just as a general rule, you're better off just using the really short food timers for these tasks. So we will do one more lot of food collecting here, and hopefully it will give us the 2 items that we need, because again, we don't have to wait for any timers. The only wait timers we have is actually replanting the food to try and get the item drop. That's it. But we will come across pools and item drops very shortly, and we will go through those in a moment, even though I've been through them like 10 bajillion times at this point. Just in case you're not familiar with them, we will go through them. Next up, we have this task, which is win league battles. And now, if you're someone that can't do your league battles because your dragons just aren't strong enough yet, this is a time where you may want to consider either gemming it outright or using your spin, because the league battles, you have to do them. And right now, I believe mine are still on cooldown, but it's only going to cost me 1 gem because they'd be coming up in 34 minutes. But just because I'm here already, I'm going to refill this for 1 gem. And all that you have to do is just win the battle. But I know that a lot of players aren't at a stage yet in the game where they can do these battles and win them, because the enemy dragons, they max out at level 45 stars. They will never ever go above level 45 stars, so as long as you have dragons that can take out any level 45 star team in the game, you will be able to do your league battles. But again, it's going to be down to what point in the game you're at as a player. Again, some players will really struggle with these league battles. Others, like me, it's basically free rank ups for my new dragons. So to me, this is very easy, but newer players will struggle, and you can use your skip for those if you want to save some gems. Otherwise, just gemming them may be your only option. Of course, you can try and reset your fights as well if they're just not working for you. But I would say this is a main reason why you really have to make sure before heroic races and before other events in general that you get to a point where you can do your league battles with no issue. So otherwise, you're going to have a problem from, well, the very early levels of the heroic race, not even later on. It's like pretty much straight away you're going to get stuck on those league battles. So, wow, why do you get an extra turn? I'm not going to get a last hit with my ascended daddy now. Well, it is what it is. But anyway, let's finish off this battle here. We can just auto-play this because of our dragon levels and not even have to think. And then we move on to the next lap, because that will finish this off. We'll get some orbs for deity as well, which is wonderful. We'll get some gems back for this, and there you go. Lovely. Now we come to lap 3, node 3. And again, we've got collecting food that we're going to have to do, but we also have this quest here, which is battling dragons. And so as soon as you see battle dragons or win battles, whatever the specific terminology is, just go in, finish the first battle, and then immediately you're going to be greeted with a timer. This time it's 15 minutes. Typically the longest timers are on the final battle, and with these you'll get to a point where you might have to do 8 of these in a row just for 1 node. So the best thing to do for these winning battles is to log in for the timers for all of the other battles, and then for the last battle you would gem that one if it has a long timer. So these final battles here, like, it's not going to be the case for du jour here, but later on when we're in the race, these battles might have a 6-hour timer. But if you come here, it's only going to cost you like 3 gems to skip it. So skipping 6 hours for 3 gems is actually really worthwhile. Like, that's good value for your gems, really. And it is the cheapest way to get through these battles. Alternatively, what you can do is you can also use your skips on this, because we have this special free spin, and at worst you're going to skip 1 item's worth, which, you know, on a battle that could be an hour, it could be a few hours, or you could skip the whole node. So in this case, you might want to save your free spin until you've done a few of these laps first, and so then you'll come across a battle that is more so like, rather than being like 20-minute timer or an hour timer, it might be a few hours. So I would suggest to save your skip until you get to around about like what, lap 7-ish, and then you should probably somewhere around there anyway, it'd be a good time to use it. But we're going to have to wait 15 minutes for this battle anyway. In the meantime, of course, we will be collecting our food. And if you want to know if there is a wait timer on the lap 3 node 3 mission for collecting food, we can check that on Ditlep. So we just did this one for the league battles, and then we scroll down to here and you'll see that lap 3 node 3, it says that for collecting food, there is no minimum wait time, which means that we can just collect 9 items straight away. But for battle dragons, it does show us that the minimum amount of time taken for this one is going to be an hour. So even though the first cooldown is only 15 minutes, the one after that is going to be longer. So that is why there would be a 1 hour timer on that one. But let's make sure that we collect all of our food. And while I'm talking about using your skip to skip the battles, if you're ever going to skip battles for like this one or for league battles, make sure that you clear out the other quest first, because if you get all 9 items of the collecting food, then you are guaranteed to get battle items from this skip. But, well, I should say spin. But if you don't clear out the collecting food quest, for example, and then you use the spinner, you might just get food items, which would be a massive waste of your spin. So make sure that if you were going to use your spin on like the battles section here, that you would collect all of your food first and then use the spin. This is something that I think new players get very wrong, and it just sucks seeing them get their food items instead of getting their battle items. It is just tragic. It's a very tragic moment. But those are the missions that we can do right now. Again, we'll come back in 11 minutes and do that battle, and then maybe I'll skip the last one just for the sake of this. After this lap 3 node 3, we are going to have feeding dragons and collecting food, and there is going to be a wait timer on both of these. So you'll see that for feeding dragons, there's going to be 12 items, but a pool of 9, which means that when we get this task, we can only collect 9 items by feeding our dragons. And if you want to know the easiest way to feed dragons, it's very simple. Just get an egg, ideally a brand new dragon egg, so a level 1 dragon. Then all that you're going to do is you're going to place it into a habitat. So it might be a terror dragon. You're going to place it into a habitat, and then you're just going to feed it up, and then that'll give you the items that you need. It doesn't take very long. Feeding, I think, is the best quest in heroic races, and it is the fastest and easiest and the quickest. But that being said, this node will have a wait timer, which means that you'll get 9 items and then you won't be able to get any more items, and then you'll have to wait 30 minutes before you can collect the last 3 items. So that's what I'd highly suggest. As soon as we get to lap 3 node 4, we would go in, feed the dragon, then we wait 30 minutes, come back, and then feed another dragon, get the last 3 items. And then that's going to be the same thing for collecting food. Like right now, there is no cooldown for lap 3 node 3, but there will be on node 4, which means that once we've collected all the items that we can, again, we wait for 30 minutes, we log back in, we get the last 2 items. So this minimum time will show you the absolute minimum amount of time that it would take you to finish this node. That's not gemming, that's just if you were actually waiting for the items to regenerate in that particular node. So 30 minutes minimum it would take for node 4. Then we have lap 3 node 5, which is breed dragons. And now this one, there is no minimum wait time, which means that you can just get all 3 items for this node instantly without having to wait, which is great. Problem is, it's for breeding dragons, and breeding dragons is probably one of the most hated tasks in the whole heroic race. I mean, it's easy in essence. The problem is going to be RNG, because if you want to do breeding tasks, the best combination that you can use if you don't have time skips is going to be Terra x Terra. The reason why you breed non-empowered Terra dragons together is because the only possible result is Terra. And when the only possible result is Terra, this means that you can't be stuck waiting too long on your breeding den or hatchery as well, because the only possible outcome is going to be terror. And when you breed terrors together, you have a 10% chance of getting an item. But what this means is that since there's only a 10% chance, you are going to have to do this breed so many times, it'll probably make you wish that you were dead inside, or just dead, literally. But either way, that is what you do for the breeding tasks. I would highly recommend, I know that I'm not doing this right now because I need to clear this out, I would highly recommend to have at least 2 to 3 spots available in your hatchery at all times for breeding and hatching quests. And I'd also highly suggest to have 2 of your breeding dens free at any time, just to do Terra X Terra breeding. Like, we don't want to be doing breeding like this, we want to be doing non-empowered Terra breeding in at least 2 of our breeding dens. The reason why I suggest at least 2 dens and at least 2 to 3 hatchery slots is purely because if you don't do this, you are going to have an awful time with trying to get the item drops that you want. So like for lap 3 node 5, it's only 3 items, it doesn't seem like a lot. But if you only have 1 breeding and hatchery slot to do this, this can take 15-20 minutes easily if you get unlucky with your drops. Whereas as long as you've got 2 of them running at all times, and as long as you've got a few slots, it speeds up the process so much, so you can finish that breeding, hatch an egg, finish that breeding, hatch an egg, and just keep doing that. And the amount of time taken will diminish by a lot during these heroic races. So I highly suggest doing this if you can. And you know, we have 3 breeding dens, so you can always have a free breeding den and then have 2 of them just doing exclusively Terra breedings. And again, with the hatchery, you should have some slots open. Don't worry about mine. I just got very ahead of myself. I wanted to hatch lots of new dragons is basically what happened, so don't question me there. Now, the other tasks that we are going to have, if we move on to lap 4, we're going to have another set of collecting food, which that time it's going to be 21 collects, which is a lot. Then we're going to have feeding dragons and battling dragons again, which again, we're going to have wait timers for those, league battles again, feeding dragons collecting gold again, battle dragons collecting food. So lap 4 is more or less the same stuff. Then we're going to have lap 5, which is more breeding, but that time 6 breeds, blah, 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 blah. And then lap 5, node 4, is when we come across hatch eggs. And hatch eggs is very similar to this breeding, except rather than you having to shove them in the breeding den and then take the egg out, instead what you do is directly from your hatchery in a free hatchery slot, you would go and purchase a Terra Dragon egg. So I can't properly show it since my hatchery is full, but you would go to gold only, and then you would purchase a Terra Dragon egg for 100 gold. And again, the more free slots you have to be able to do this, the amount of time it takes is going to diminish for you by a lot, because if you can hatch eggs in 4 of your hatchery slots rather than just 1, then you're going to have a much easier time with getting this task done. Even though it's only 2 items, again, that could take you at least 5 minutes. So there is that. And if you are wondering about the timers in terms of how they impact either, you know, getting breeding items or hatching items, the longer the breed is, or the longer the hatching timer is, the more likely you are to get the item. And the thing is, I believe if the timer is over 9 hours, wow, why can't I speak? If the timer is above 9 hours on the eggs hatch, for instance, like for Zodiac Leo, which is over 9 hours, you will be guaranteed an item. If it's below a 9-hour timer that you waited on, then you are not guaranteed to get an item, but it will be a certain percent based on how long it took. So the reason why the chance is so low for the hatching and breeding being 10% is because that's assuming a base chance with like Terra Dragons, for instance. So it's only going to be 10% if you're doing Terra Dragon eggs, but if you do longer eggs, then either it's guaranteed or it might be like 50%, 80% chance. But of course, if it is a longer timer, you're going to have to take into account that your hatchery is going to be full or your breeding den is going to be full for that amount of time. So if you're going to go to sleep and when you wake up, you're going to have a hatching or a breeding task coming up, you can always, for say hatching, you could go to the shop and you could place a War Dragon egg in there instead and then hatch the War Dragon egg for a much boosted chance of getting an item from it. And same with breeding. You could do like Terra and Flame breeding, and then if you get an Aztec dragon, then it'll be really good for breeding. So keep all of those things in mind when it comes to the breeding and hatching tasks. Specifically, they are the hardest and most annoying tasks, along with collecting food for that reason of the randomness on the drops, basically. But they are very doable. You just need to take your time with them if you're doing Terra stuff or short food timers with it. So again, we got a few minutes until our Worm Dragon Bell is going to be ready. But again, we would just continue on, and you would just constantly have ditlep.com open or any guide open if you wanted to make sure that you are paying attention. And I have posted this in the Dragon City event guides channel of my Discord server. Not that it really needs to be posted in there because most people know what Ditlep is anyway, but for all the things that you can use Ditlep for, the heroic race is one of them. Sometimes the timers on Ditlep are very slightly off, but Deatlist used to be a little bit better with that. The only problem is Deatlist, as you can see, just doesn't have any event data right now, so Ditlep will do for now. It will suffice. So if you're not getting an item, maybe just wait an extra 30 seconds to a minute, and then usually you'll be fine. But those are the tasks in the heroic race and how you can do them. Again, I would highly suggest that you always have slots in your farm, slots in your breeding den, slots in your hatchery to be able to do these. So while we are waiting at least another couple of minutes for the Worm Dragon, I will talk about the current collection as well, because we currently have the Call of the Siren collection, and in this we have the shields, and we have these like the spear ends, and here it says, think you can resist the melodies of the sinister High Siren Dragon? Then help Odysseus sail the seas and be rewarded for your efforts. And in this you'll see the different events that are coming up. So we're going to have a maze event with more of those crystals in it. We're going to have the heroic race ongoing, and we are going to have a fog event. And in those events we can get event items, and of course we can also get crystals in them as well. So prepare your journey across the horizon with bronze spearheads and aspis shields. You can find them in the event islands, quest, Dragon TV, and in the arenas. And now it says you can find these in the arenas, but checking my arena right now, they're not in here right now because it should showcase in the chest here, so maybe they'll add those later. So we will be doing lots of arena stuff very shortly so that we can get lots of those event items. But at the same time, when you get a shield, each time you will be able to, well, every 10 times, there's 10 times where you can get it max, but you can get your hands on one of these chests which has orbs for High Siren in it. And along with that, it's also going to have heroic trade essence. So these are very, very, very good collection rewards just for a single shield. So we're going to open this one up right now. And we got one singular orb for High Siren, which is about what I'd expect, but it is an orb nonetheless. So we will claim that, and then we will get 10 heroic trade essence. That is fine. That is very good, actually, getting 10 heroic trade essence, because that's obviously the biggest drop. So, you know, you could get insanely lucky with the orbs drops or insanely lucky with the heroic essence drops, but now we can get that another 9 times for collecting shields. The other part of this collection that we have is this one, which has an epic egg chest, which is whatever, and then we can get a very small sputtering of Joker orbs, which are whatever, for getting 10 of the spearheads. Then the next one is 20 spearheads and 2 shields, and in this that's 50 legendary Jokers, which is pretty good. Next one is Phoenix perk, 50 heroic Jokers and 90 legendary Jokers for 35 spears, which is a lot of spears, but it's probably doable. The final one, however, is this one, which has Joker orbs in it. It's got Odysseus dragon orbs in it, and then randomly you could get orbs for High Siren. Usually the bottom one isn't doable for players, but maybe if you really push in this and really push an arena, it could be doable, maybe with some gems. But just bear in mind, the bottom part of the collection is normally very close to not doable for any free-to-play players. So we'll have to, you know, play this play this out, see how it goes, see what our spear drops are like, and then see if this is possible. But at the very least, you should pick up the heroic jokers from this one. So there is that. And now that we've spoken about that, Worm is now done. So we can go in and finish off this battle with Sinful. And like I mentioned before, the next battle is going to have a slightly longer timer than the one that we just waited for. It's going to be a 30-minute timer, which we can skip here for 3 gems. And again, we can skip here for 3 gems. Normally I would wait the 30 minutes, but just because we're here, I'm going to finish it with gems this time. And then again, you'll see that we're on lap 3, node 4. And like I said, that is when we would go to Mr. Ditlep. Lap 3, we go down to node 4, but we did go through this earlier that this one has a 30-minute timer on it. And so what you can do if you ever want to, you know, not immediately do the tasks, but you still want to start the cooldown on the items regenerating, is if we've got a pool of 8, for instance, on the food, and we have a pool of 9 on the feed dragons, what you could do in theory is like you'd get a dragon, you'd feed it up, and rather than having to collect all the items instantly, you could just collect the first item or the first 2 items and then wait the 30 minutes and then collect all of them at once. So you'll see that we're stuck at 9 out of 12. But what we could have done is we could have collected just 3 of the feeding item dragons items and then just left for 30 minutes, came back and then gotten all the rest of the items. So that's one way that you can, I guess, use the timers to your advantage. Generally, it is better to just collect all the items immediately and then just wait for the cooldown on the last few items to come back. But depending on how busy you are and if you like instantly need to basically leave, but you can do like 1 set of item collections, you can do that. So just bear in mind that that's how pools work. So all that you have to do is, for this one, you'll see that we've collected 1 of the collecting food items, which means that now the cooldown for the first item has begun. So now we need to collect 1 more food item and then we could leave for 30 minutes and then come back. But, you know, the drops just aren't being our friend here today. So yeah, I'm going to at least make sure that we get 1 more item before I talk about anything else or skedaddle, because again, we want to make sure that the timer for the second item in this pool has begun at least before we leave. So always keep that in mind when you are trying to get through this heroic race as quickly as possible. Abusing those pools and wait timers is going to be the difference between you potentially winning or losing this race, maybe getting first in the race. So there we go. Now we could leave for a little while, 30 minutes, come back and finish these off if we wanted to. But again, I'll probably do the collecting food over the next 30 minutes so that we are guaranteed to be done with it by the end of the 30-minute mark. But that is the heroic race in its essence. So, well, I know that it's a lot to take in if you're a new player, but we've seen these heroic races so many times at this point that, you know, we're pretty much used to this and how they work. So you could watch any of the other heroic race guides I've done before and it would be pretty much exactly the same this time. Except don't watch the High Occult Titan and don't watch the High Destiny race, because those were different to this one. Any of the others, however, would be exactly the same as High Siren. So yeah, make sure you are keeping track of where your opponents are as well. If you do get to lap 15 and guarantee the heroic, maybe it doesn't matter to you. But if you're someone that either can't get to lap 15 or you just really want to come first for whatever reason, you can see where your opponents are. But bear in mind that where your opponents are right now doesn't actually really matter. All that matters is where they are at like the 10-day mark. Because, you know, right now they might be asleep, they might be at work, but then they might suddenly log in and like gem 7 laps in a row. You never know what's going to happen with your opponents. It's random who you get paired with, and the people that are in your race, you can see them, but that doesn't mean that they can see you in their leaderboard. So bear that in mind. You may think that like if you're fighting on a certain lap with someone that they can see you and that's why they're fighting you, but chances are they can't and they're just fighting someone else or they're just playing their own race. So they're not gemming to beat you specifically, they're just gemming or just playing really, really optimally just to win whatever they want to win. So I think that helps me feel better about these races if you ever have a really close race. It's like they're not actually racing you, they're just racing some other random person that they can see, that you just happen to be able to see them where they are. So keep that in mind when you are doing the heroic race. But you know, at the moment, basically, we've got heroic race going on. We have the holo going on with the 10th birthday chest, which I got screwed over with earlier. We've got the breeding event island, which I'm probably going to start doing Curtis breeding over here in the other den in a moment. But the other thing I haven't mentioned yet are the quests, and we do have tons of quests on right now. By tons of quests on, there is how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 quests on right now. There are 10 quests, and now keeping track of all of these quests, honestly, I don't think you're going to be able to do it. I think that probably what's going to happen for most people is they're going to pick 1 or 2 quests specifically that they're going to focus on, and they're just going to focus on doing those, and then if the other quests at the same time are there, they'll go, oh yeah, I need to do that quest as well, and then they'll log in for that one. But just make sure that you are focusing on the specific quest that you want to focus on first, and then any of the other quests that are ongoing at the same time, you know, you can log in for those too. But 10 quests ongoing doesn't mean you'll be able to take part in all 10 of them, but the petrified path, make sure you're doing that one if you want to get the orbs for the new dragon, Plasma. And then we have, for instance, Survival 100, if you manage to get Colossus Eternal like I did. If we empower him, we can do those. Mythical quest, whenever we get that dragon, we can do those. We do have heroic quests for High Siren as well, much like we have every time recently. So you're going to need a fully empowered High Siren if you want the stage 22 rewards. So you're probably not getting that one, but you can easily make your way through the other stages if you gem through the heroic combat quests. And potentially, if you do lots of trading for High Siren orbs, then you can get lots of really, really good rewards from these heroic quests. So make sure you are paying attention to this, and make sure you get High Siren from the race as well to help you out with that. Then we've got the Curtis quest, which again, you can get orbs for him, you can get gems, tons of orbs for these dragons. And I haven't actually checked what we can, or which level they need to be. So hopefully Ditlep has the information as usual. So if we scroll down and go to these new Curtis and Haunted, actually let's check Haunted because Haunted is based. And if we go to the bottom, you'll see that we will need a level 15 Haunted for stage 15. If that is actually true, then all that you'll actually need to do is own the dragon to finish everything off, which would be nuts. But thing to bear in mind is that to do these quests, we've only got 7 days on them. And if you were looking to do the Haunted quest, you're not going to get Haunted until lap 16. So lap 16 will normally take longer than that to get Haunted from. So you're probably going to have to breed them from the breeding event island if you want to take part in their quest. But if you do manage to get them, you are going to get lots of tasty rewards. I don't know how true it is that you can get the whole way through with a level 15, but you can at least get some way through with a level 15. But even owning the dragon, I'm sure you'll get some orbs for them. So these could be very, very spicy quests if you manage to breed them. The other quest that we got today, my voice is dying, is for Bisexual Eternal. And I was waiting for this because we already own Bisexual Eternal due to trading and other means. So Bisexual boy here, as you can see, just like the other quests, you can use him and you can rank up with them as well. So we will try and get some rank up levels with them as well. There is him using his wonderful fatality skill. Ah, I love it. Lovely blue dinosaur. Look at him go. He's just absolutely dabbing on them. Go, Bisexual boy. You are a strong, strong one. So there we go. We've done that, but now we would need him empowered if we wanted to get any more. But you know, 25 orbs and some free insignias, I will take that. So I believe that was more or less everything to bear in mind at the moment. I know it's a lot of stuff going on, and there are tons of events too. Like we've got the insignia events, and we've got all the other events ongoing as well. I know it's a lot, but you know, it's pretty simple. The main things to focus on at the moment, well, the main thing is going to be heroic race and doing any breeding in the third den if you can, But this breeding is so unlikely to be successful, so please, please bear that in mind when you are doing it, and make sure you can do your Terra breedings in at least 1 to 2 of them for the race. So, I think that's everything that I wanted to say today, so best of luck with your race. I hope you're getting an active leaderboard, and I hope that you manage to get your hands on this new heroic.